Well, I guess we're gonna start now, huh? We don't have the council. You need council. I think we need the council.
Yeah, we got a Mel and then John.
If anybody out in the lobby can hear us, we are ready to start. If you could come back in, please.
We got Mel. What more do we need?
Paging Counselor Woldman. Counselor Woldman, please report to the council chambers.
That's right.
Paging Counselor Alsobrook, if you could please report to the council chambers. We are ready to begin.
Yeah, right. Let's get this party started.
The break was therapeutic because at our age, we need to get up and move around so we don't get clots, you know, that kind of stuff, so.
Yes. So shall we just give the other counselors all the committee meetings that we want them to attend?
Here they come, here they come.
That's right.
Oh, he's jogging too. Boy, he's really
Come
going.
on down. You're the next contestant on The Price is
All
Right.
you had to do was beat Counselor Waldman. Now we can all point at him when he comes in. Oh, this guy.
Okay, I guess we can get started, Millie.
Come on, Bill. John's been waiting for you this whole time.
So we're gonna call this meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Village of Corrales governing body. We have Councilor Miera,
Here.
Councilor Woolman,
Late, but here.
Councilor Knight,
Here.
Councilor Alsobrook.
Not so late, but here.
Oh, good. Councilor Burkett.
Right, on time and here.
Okay, and Councilor Murray.
Well, I try to be here.
Okay, so people in the audience, please put your phones on vibrate or turn them off so you don't disturb any of the discussion that goes on here. And once you've done that, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So I need a motion to approve the agenda. Have you guys had a chance to look at it?
Yeah, so moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion, Councilor Murray, and a second by Councilor Woolman. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So we're going to start out with some presentations. Was there a change in the order of the presentations, Melanie?
It looks like we have the presentation from the Performing Arts Council first.
Okay, A's presentation.
And
Performing.
I need just a moment to change over the cable so that you can see his presentation.
So John, are you okay?
I am now.
Oh, okay.
I think there are.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you just make sure that you're talking into the microphone.
Good evening, Mayor Fahey, village councilors, staff, counselor, and audience. I'm John Schuman of Corrales. Right now, I'm a very proud member of the Corrales Kiwanis Club, who together with about 180 volunteers.
John, can you get it just a little closer to the mic? They can't hear you on
Very
Zoom.
proud member of Corrales Kiwanis Club, who over the weekend hosted a very successful Harvest Festival. We were rusty after 3 years, but we got our momentum. I'm also vice president of music in Corrales, which got me involved in this project to begin with. But more importantly and pertinent to this evening, I have had the honor and frequent challenge of chairing what was called the Performing Arts Committee. In my first job here today, is to persuade you and dissuade you from calling it the Performing Arts Center, because as my associates and fellow committee members will share with you, what we're talking about is much more than a performing arts center. Performing Arts Center was too limiting a name for the center. We're suggesting that the center be temporarily called the ACE Center, Arts, Community, and Education. And I say temporarily because as our project gets underway and gains some momentum, we'd like to engage the entire community, especially school children, in a name, the center contest with appropriate prizes. We think that that would be a fun thing for us to do. As a matter of protocol, we'd welcome questions, but ask that you wait until the end of the presentation to ask them. Just a couple of specific points. We believe that the Arts Center will be a center of about 15,000 square feet. It will be located on what's now called the Jones property. And in 2.5 years, when we think the project has the potential of being underway, we think that the project would cost between $6 and $8 million. Our objective tonight is quite simple. It's to gain your support for the project that we've been developing. With a military background, I'll share with you what we're going to do. I'm going to talk with you about what our task has been, what we've done, who our members are, what our process has been, what the specific recommendations are for the ACE Center, so what our suggested vision and mission statements are, and then finally come to what our proposed what our proposed next steps are for the project. Our charge from you who appointed us as village councilors was to develop a plan of use for what we're now calling the ACE Center. 7-person committee was appointed by you. We've been advised by 3 and up to 5 different advisors. We also have among the advisors are reps from Main Street, Corrales Arts Center, and village leadership, and a banker. We've received input from a number of very important community organizations like the 4-H, the Village Library, the Kiwanis Club, the Corrales Elementary School, and many others. We've worked with 2 and sometimes 3 different architects, trying to develop a floor plan for the center that will give us a visual anchor of what we're proposing. In the 6 months since our appointments, we've met every single Monday morning from 10, sometimes till noon. Our work has been diligent. We've been respectful, but we have argued, but never with any vehemence or anger, but lots of arguments. The 3 major arts organizations in Corrales have all had input, our wish list, as we call, and as has the Adobe Theater, which we would very much like to become part of the ACE Center. Interviews have been conducted with 12 different community arts organizations in Colorado, of course New Mexico, and to appease the mayor, Texas. We toured the Adobe Theater. Our work is unbiased, thorough, and was done through the work of equality, inclusion, and diversity. We'll now present our vision for what the center will be. And for that, I'll turn the program over to
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ken Dukert. I'm a member of the task force, president of the Corrales Society of Artists, and a Corrales photographer. As part of the work that I've done with the task force, I interviewed directors of 12 community arts centers in Colorado, New Mexico, and Texas. It wasn't surprising that each center was uniquely different and reflected community needs and resources. An important quality shared by all directors was a view that the centers provided a focus for the spirit and creative energy for the community. All enjoyed broad community support, and all believed that the centers had a high impact on the community. The centers provided a wide range of activities and services and engaged a significant percentage of the community, young and old. Each offered a model that we can learn from. In considering the success of these centers and discussing the views and experiences of our own task force, we quickly agreed to promote a facility that was versatile, flexible, and able to support the widest range of activities. Furthermore, we believe an emphasis on equity, diversity, and inclusion in our planning process will maximize its use, as well as position us to compete for grants and fundraising opportunities. Now, imagine an art center brightly lit with natural light and directed gallery lighting. Artwork will dominate the walls and the interior space. The theater lobby and intermission area will exhibit large wall art and sculpture. An art gallery will feature regular exhibits of artwork by local and regional artists, and especially including artwork from our local students. The setting will be especially attractive for business and community celebratory receptions. Additional space will be provided through versatile rooms adapted for a variety of uses, including classes, workshops, meetings, and additional gallery space. The walls, flooring, lighting, sinks, and separate doors will support broad usage. The space will be enthusiastically welcomed by the many community groups and organizations who now struggle to find adequate indoor space for meetings and activities. We'll also have a well-equipped catering kitchen close to the gallery reception area and will be available to all user groups. Now, through careful planning and keeping in mind all those successful models, this multi-use facility will provide long-term and immeasurable benefits to the village. Many of us have our own stories about how involvement with the arts changed our lives and the lives of our children. Theater, music, painting, and other creative expression give us strength and purpose. The arts are essential to the quality of life, and our overarching goal is directed at doing just that, improving the quality of life in the village.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, village management, and guests. I'm Barbara Boyd. I'm a resident of Corrales, and I'm the treasurer and business manager for the Adobe Theater. You may have heard the story that the Adobe Theater started in Corrales. That's a true story. We started 45 years ago in 1957 in the old church. And so just imagine cast members going outside the windows to do scene changes, because that's what they had to do in the old church at that point in time. The Adobe Theater would really like to come back to Corrales, and we would bring a lot of assets with us. We have lighting, we have sound equipment, we have lots of stage scene setting equipment, set equipment, such as saws and miters, and we have wood and flats, and we have props and costumes and lots of furniture. theaters have lots of furniture. We also have 95 seats for our patrons, and those seats we would bring with us as well. Adding all that together, we feel the value that we would bring with us is about $100,000. Currently, we limit our seating size based upon licensing, because it mostly is cheaper for us to license something less than less than 100 seats. But our ACE committee is proposing a theater with a capacity of up to 200. The shape will be fan shape, and the floor will be just slightly raised above the main floor, and that's where the stage would be set. A larger theater would allow the Adobe Theater to potentially offer productions to audiences of more than 99. More importantly, the larger theater will be able to accommodate other community events, such as music in Corrales, candidate forums, lectures, children's plays, maybe even a heritage play, and even movies. A larger venue will attract bigger names and more regional interest, with its resulting positive impact on the local community. Imagine a stage schedule collectively planned by the Adobe Theater, Music in Corrales, teachers, and groups from Corrales and the surrounding communities. The main takeaway regarding the theater space is that we want it to be flexible and we want to have multi-use. Our committee is also proposing just one office be in the center, and it be well equipped for the center's managers and for others to walk in as needed. Of course, we will follow all the compliance that we need to have internet connectivity. One item we'll need to consider is parking. We want adequate parking for up to 300 center attendees, which we believe can be accommodated by providing a combination of full-size and compact-size parking, as well as using the Growers Market and Rec Center parking areas with lighted pathways to the center. Architecture, we would certainly want the architecture to reflect the artistic purpose of the center while maintaining the charm of Corrales. We will also need signage at the road, which is the corner of Double S and Corrales Road, because the center will be so far away from the main Corrales Road and it's behind the post office, so I think it'd be kind of hard to see, so we would need some signage for that purpose.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councilors, village management, and guests. I'm Linda Parker, and I'm a business owner in Corrales, and I have also functioned on 3 other of the community boards, and currently am the treasurer for Corrales Main Street. As you know, the mission statement is where an entity wants to go. The mission statement is what you will do when you arrive. Much research has gone into the fact-finding to develop paths to where and what the arrival will look like. Part of the underlying foundation our committee used to develop the where and the arrival are based on 3 very important words, and you've heard this mentioned several times tonight, and I think it's very important to this community, and it is diversity, equity, and inclusion. We use those words while following best business practices. The vision of this project has been many years in the making, and for the first time can actually come to fruition with the leadership of this committee and your support. This very important project will require operational management creation, architectural design, and as always, capital funds from a variety of resources which can be made possible through a proposed public-private partnership, which is something that is not new. Corrales Main Street, as an example, has successfully worked with the village for many years and is one such public-private partnership. By creating a public-private partnership, we will be able to acquire funds from state and village budgets as well as federal resources. We will also use financial support from public and private foundations, corporations, and private citizens. This committee was appointed by the mayor, and you confirmed our appointment, and it was coupled with several advisors. All of these individuals have professional expertise in the necessary areas and are committed to do the very heavy lifting to allow the realization of the needs and the dreams of our citizens to finally become a reality. We respectfully request that you support our proposal of concept development. Thank you.
We've worked real hard. As I shared with you, we've met every Monday since May, and I've come up with a plan that we've discussed with you this evening that we think has a lot of merit. Can you advance it for me? What are our next steps? What I'd like to do, but won't take the time because I'd like to welcome a lot of questions from you. What I'd like to do is give you my interpretation of the visual walk through the center, but instead would rather just tackle the idea of what our next steps are. As Linda, Ken, and Barbara have said, what we're really seeking tonight is very simple. We want a straw vote from you supporting what it is that we're doing. Secondly, we're looking for a go-ahead for developing a business plan. We're actually right in the throes of developing a business plan that's defining our objectives, defining goals for each of the objectives, defining action steps, key performance indicators, and who's responsible for each of these objectives. We've just begun, but want your approval for us to proceed, hoping that you would allow us to actually execute on the business plan later down the line. Everyone has talked, especially Linda, about the need for funding. For us to be successful in our funding, we're going to have to take a concept that people can wrap their arms around to see what it is exactly that we're doing. We're not talking about spending a lot of money initially, but we are talking about spending some money that's going to be critical for us to garner financial as well as community support. Last but not least, we as a committee are not walking away now that we've accomplished the objectives that you set before us. We're anxious to continue to proceed and continue to invest the time and the talents necessary to bring this project to fruition. And most importantly, what we're looking forward to is the opening day of the ACE Center. So with that, I open myself to questions following the thank you and thank you and thank you for the time.
Councilor Burkett.
Thank you guys for the presentation. A comment and a question. The comment is this information you guys presented is incredible. I mean, particularly the information from all the other art centers. It is really, really eye-opening and really useful information. So I appreciate, I'm sure a ton of time and effort went into everything you guys put together. Thank you for doing all of that. My question is, do you guys envision this as a village property that's going to be managed by a newly formed entity at some point? Is that how you see the operations going in the future?
To answer your question, yes. There are a couple of not-for-profits in Corrales currently existing that could do it. One of the things that we learned as we surveyed all of the different art centers through the various states is that a single one of them is operated by a separate 501c3 organization. There are a couple like Main Street and maybe Music in Corrales that are here that could operate it, but what we're proposing is probably a separate 501c3 organization specifically targeted for the operation of the ACE Center. Does that help you?
Answers it perfectly. Thank you very much.
Mayor,
Councilor Waldman?
there was mention, first of all, thank you for the presentation and more importantly for what was in our packet. It really is informative. There was a mention of up to three parking for up to 300 guests. Is there a way of estimating what number of vehicles that would represent? We've had discussion in the last several meetings about our difficulty with parking here in the village.
In one of my many previous lives, I managed and developed regional malls across the country. And one of the points that were used when trying to estimate parking for a regional mall and for facilities like this would be about 1.75 people per car, which is much different than a lot of other uses that you might think of, but about 1.75. So you can work backward. I know that there are currently village ordinances that don't allow compact parking. That needs to be amended, not just for our use. A variance needs to be made for virtually the entire community. It's an ancient variance or an ancient an ancient ordinance, if you will.
One other question. Once the plans are drawn, the funding is somewhat secured. Is there an estimate how long it might take to build this and make it operational?
For a variety of reasons, a lot of it having to do with bonding. And we believe that only a portion of this facility will be bonded or can be bonded. We think it will take about 2.5 years for us to get to that point where we can actually begin. It will probably take 1 year to 1.5 years to actually construct this. One of the things that we're running up against is that the Adobe Theater, which we would very much like to have because everything that it would add to our community, has a lease that expires in 3 years. So we're running right up against it. I hope that helps you, Bill.
I'm a huge fan of the Adobe Theater, but hopefully you will not bring the tree that blocks your sign. Thank you.
Anyone else have a question?
Several years ago, I was an employee at the Natural History Museum, and it was created through a public-private partnership whereby the 501c3, the foundation, is what it was, contracted with the museum, which was owned by the state. And when services, because as you all know, the quid pro quo cannot be violated. So we would raise money for the museum and help support programs, etc. And for that, we had office space within the museum. The Explora Science and Children's Museum started out the very same way. It is not an unusual situation, and it's done through maybe one large contract or multiple small contracts that are specific to a certain activity. Okay.
Okay.
Any others?
Any other questions? John, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming. So next up,
We don't want to walk away from here empty-handed. We're looking for a strong vote of approval.
I don't think we can do that, John. It's not down here as some kind of vote or whatever, but I believe that based on the questions and from the council and their questions of you, I think there's a very positive attitude. I think I've said that, in fact. So I don't know that I can give you a number because it's not down as a vote. It's only as a presentation.
So do we continue or do we take a pause?
No, you're still going.
Okay. That's all I needed to know.
Yeah, we're, so to tell you guys what's going on, so as you're aware, there is no money. We are making progress in the demolition of the property. It's our feeling that once we have the property demolished, then we will move quicker toward funding for more of the project, let's say. We're anticipating that when we're able, maybe in 2024, we will look for some bond money, but it's going to take more than one bond election to get this thing built, if it truly is as much as we're anticipating. So we've been talking about private-public partnerships. We've been talking about something fashioned after, oh gosh, what's it called in Albuquerque, Linda? The fund. We one time we had a Corrales Future Fund started here and it didn't pan out, but something of that sort where we can actually fund this. We are anticipating that at least one FTE, is that what we said, would probably be needed, from the village to be responsible for this building. But all this is still kind of in the, we haven't spent any money and we don't have any money yet. So it's all pretty much pie in the sky still. It's a big pie, but it's still up there. But we felt we needed to tell you what we were doing because we didn't want to say, well, what are you guys doing over there every Monday morning, besides drinking coffee and John eating donuts. I know, he doesn't eat donuts. Okay, well, let's move on.
I know.
So we'll go to Ms. Edgerly from Intel, introducing her replacement, please. Erica, thanks for coming.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Appreciate, Mayor, the invitation, Mr. Curry and the councilor for letting us come in today. I have a bit of a presentation. There were some questions that I had gotten asked, so I wanted to make sure that we kind of provide a little intel update too. But by way of introduction, Frank Gallegos has been with Intel for a number of years. We won't go into that, but a number of years, and he'll be taking on the public affairs role that I have previously held for the past 5.5 years. And I do want to say, kind of from an outgoing perspective, I really appreciate having worked with prior mayor and prior councilors and this group too, together as a neighbor. So very much appreciate the partnership and just thank you so much for all the opportunities. You're in good hands with Frank, trust me. Yeah. So we'll go from there. And Melanie is driving for me, so thank you, Melanie. If you want to go to the next page. And I feel really bad that my back is to all of you, so I'm sorry. We announced about 1.5 years ago a new investment in the site in New Mexico. It's about a $3.5 billion investment. Mayor Roque was kind enough to join us for that announcement. And what we talked about then was creating about 700 additional full-time employee jobs, about 1,000 construction jobs, and about 3,500 indirect jobs. And you might ask about the 3,500 indirect jobs. We have multiple economic impact studies that we've done, and we know that every one Intel job basically induces between 6 and 7 jobs in the community. And that can be, anywhere from Target to a local restaurant to someplace else, but that really is what that job inducement does. And that's just with the Intel employees. That doesn't account for the job inducement that's also there for our construction workers that we anticipate are going to be on our campus for the next 3 years. It is a fairly sizable impact. Melanie, if you want to go to the next page, please. These are numbers that are based from an economic impact to the state. And I don't have the perfect granularity down to a Corrales level, but we do have, right now, we have over 1,900 employees. That equates to about 9,000 jobs totally supported in New Mexico. Most of them are in the metro area, if you want to think about that. We've invested about $30 billion in capital, right? And we have quite a large annual labor contribution as well as GDP contribution to the state. So that's your neighbor, just to kind of ground us in the economics of it. I would much rather spend time talking about what we do in the community. Our employees, we live here. I live here in Corrales, for those of you that don't know me. And I'm also on the Parks and Rec Committee, but I'm not here in that capacity tonight. But our employees want to be very involved in the community, and we as a business want to be involved in the community too.
And so we've, over our 42 years in New Mexico, we've done quite a bit of investment in Corrales, and I can run through some of those numbers. Overall, we've had $6.7 million from Intel, the Intel Foundation, and our employees invested in the local area in the last 5 years. And we've supported 3 major grants in 2022. One of those includes our Corrales Main Street grant that we've done annually between Sandy and now Angela for a number of years. And those grants go directly to supporting organizations within Corrales. And here's our Corrales grant giving for this year, if you didn't see it in the Main Street news, but you can see the number of groups that are there. I would say groups kind of come in and come out every couple of years as I've been watching this, and they're very thankful, I think, for the grant, but they're also really striving to put the grant to the best use that they can do. And so, we've had a long partnership with the library as an example. I know Explora was mentioned earlier, but the library has often used funds to bring Explora in, just kind of their summer, events that they have in the evening. Seed to Need is obviously one that we've worked with in Village in the Village as well. So we really appreciate the partnership with Main Street to help administer those grants. But that is one of the partnerships that we've had for quite some time. And a couple other data pieces that I didn't put on here, in about the past 15 to 20 years, when we go back and look at our records, it's been over $330,000 in direct donations that have been given to the village or the businesses in the village. That does not include some of the tank donations that we've done with the fire department, recent exercise equipment and walkout, but we've done some of those donations, and we continue to do those donations over the years. So we haven't valued that. And then the other piece I did want to mention, kind of back to, I got asked the question before I came in with how many Intel employees actually live in the village. It's tough data to get from a personal Information Act standpoint. So employees actually have to opt in to tell us if we can share that information. So we know that we have about 40 families that live in the village. I'm obviously one of them, and we have a number of retirees that live in the village as well. So kind of keep that in mind. It's not perfect data, but that's sort of where we are today. Okay, changing a little bit. We made an announcement earlier this year that we're going to go to net zero greenhouse gas emissions across our scope 1 and scope 2, and Mr. Curry can grade me on my explanation of scope 1 and scope 2, but we have that goal to do it by 2040. I will tell you that we've been on this journey as a company for a really, really long time. We've been trying to pull down all emissions over the years, and we haven't gotten to zero or net zero, but we're far below, where some of our competitors are, if you would, and we're very conscious about, obviously, we're surrounded by a village, City of Rio Rancho, City of Albuquerque as well. So it's a corporate goal that we're going after, but we will see local change as well. So when we talk about scope 1 and scope 2, that is what we emit at the Intel Rio Rancho or Intel New Mexico facility. That's what we emit. Scope 2 is things that are emitted by power generation, if you would. Now that scope 2 is not emitted, it's emitted at the source of power generation. It's not emitted at Intel, but we include that in the scope 1 and scope 2. And so those are within our goals that we're trying to drive to. And we don't have a perfect plan yet. We've got lots of ideas. Frank is from our environmental health and safety group. And so, he'll be able to keep you apprised of those things. And he's very familiar with those regulations as well. So if you go a little bit more, the other thing I know people always ask about is water. And so Intel has had, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, but we have a set of 2030 corporate social responsibility goals that we've been marching to. We had the 2021s, and then we updated them for 2030. Water has been at the top of that list for some time, and I'm happy to say that the New Mexico site today is 100% water positive. What does that mean? We use water. It goes in our outfall to ABCWA, they treat it, and then it eventually goes back into the Rio Grande River. Well, we lose water through evaporation in our manufacturing process. It's just a fact of what happens. We've done everything we can, I think, at this point to try to stop the evaporation, but some of it gets lost. So what we've done is we've partnered with different groups like the National Forest Service Foundation and Trout Unlimited as a couple of examples to do water restoration projects that are actually going to benefit the Rio Grande. So the first project that we did was up in the Valles Vidal, up kind of northeast of Cuesta, I guess is the right orientation for you up there. Comanche Creek, too many elk, too many cattle, muddy mess, water wasn't getting from the top to the bottom, and it also wasn't being stored in the ground. So we worked with them with multiple partners, went in, I've seen an excavator with booties on it, if you would, big rubber tracks that go on it to kind of minimize the impact to the environment. They go in, they reroute the stream bed, right? We put up exclosures to keep the animals out and let the plants grow, and to do water restoration that way. And then we have a third party that goes through and says, okay, well, how did you do? Is water actually getting, into the Rio Grande? And then so there's a third party validation there in that process. I'm happy to say with that project, and I personally went up there and did the validation myself. Water was making it all the way down. We had multiple villages telling us, oh my gosh, we haven't seen this much water in years. Game and Fish was very happy because it's quality fishing waters and they're trying to restore the Rio Grande cutthroat trout. And then the other added benefit was residents had told us they hadn't seen beavers in about 40 years, and the beavers are back. So we know that there is an environmental, additional environmental impact there as well. The next project that we're going to be doing is actually up in Jemez, and so we're looking for kind of a similar return. It's a little closer to home. We're hoping we can get our volunteers up there as well to kind of help with some of those things. Okay, and for that, that's what I have. I don't know if anybody has any questions. I know I didn't provide the packet in advance, but I hope I had the questions that I was pre-asked to answer. And if there's anything else, I'm happy to take questions or comments.
Anyone have any questions? Councilor Burkett?
I'll just make a comment. It's been great working with you, Erica. I'm sure Frank's going to do a great job. You've really set him up nicely to announce the Intel ACE cooperative tonight. So I'm just joking.
I somehow knew that was going to come out when I heard corporation.
No, in all seriousness, you've been awesome, and we appreciate it. Yep.
Yes, Councilor Murray.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Erica, how's the trails up there behind Intel? Has that settled down pretty well? I mean,
So I think thank you for your question. The last time I was here, we were presenting kind of what we were doing from a stormwater mitigation perspective. It started at Mayor Fahey. And so, I think everything up there is settled in, it's regrowing. I was really impressed even with the lack of rain last year and kind of the lack of rain earlier this year, how plants are coming back. We have a goat head problem. We're working on the goat head problem. I don't think we're alone in that problem. But the trails up there are going quite well, right? And every time I go walk, and I know Frank's been up there too, we always get comments from residents and neighbors about, just thank you for all the work that you've done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you, Eric.
All right, thank you all so much for your time. Have a wonderful evening.
And Frank, thank you for coming also. It's nice meeting you. So now we're going to hear from CNN President Tracy Hartstone on upcoming GO bond on the November ballot. Thank you for coming.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and councilors. My name is Olivia Padilla Jackson, and I am representing Central New Mexico Community College for President Hartzler tonight. She sends her apologies that she is traveling this evening. Thank you so much for giving me a little bit of time on your agenda tonight. I hope you can hear me okay with this mask. I have a very soft voice, so please let me know if you need.
Is she coming through?
I mean, you're okay?
I think so. You might want to bring the mic just a little bit closer.
Okay, great.
You can hold the mic. You don't have to lean over.
All right, let's try that.
If you can take it apart. There you go.
Is this a little bit better?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. So I'm specifically here to ask for your support to vote on the upcoming statewide Higher Education Bond 3 at the upcoming November 8th election. The first thing I would say about this Bond 3 is that there is no tax increase associated with the bond. This particular bond question on November 8th that you will see on the ballot supports education across the state, specifically higher education across New Mexico. We do work with various entities to determine economic impact, and that economic impact shows that this bond, through all of the building of the facilities, would create 2,000 new jobs in the trades, architecture, and related fields across the state. It also helps colleges modernize facilities to meet the demand for the future of work in education. So specifically, what does it do for CNM? Tricky with the bike. So specifically for CNM, the funding included in the bond would allow us to better prepare students through the creation of an innovative educational environment for the trades. So we're kind of going back to our roots. CNM started as a vocational institute back in the 50s. And so we haven't modernized our trades facilities in many, many decades. So we're super excited about building a state-of-the-art facility for our trade students in New Mexico. We know that the demand is there for those high-skilled, for the high-skilled workforce. It also provides training in future of work jobs such as solar. So it's not just traditional construction trades, but we're also talking about solar, aerospace, robotics, and mechatronics. So some of the newer emerging fields in the trades industry. It also provides us an opportunity to strengthen existing partnerships with local employers like Intel and school districts. So that is what it does for CNM. Let me just tell you a little bit about the project, and then I'll get on to my final ask. So the project itself is approximately $56 million. Again, it's an innovative state-of-the-art facility on our main campus, all dedicated to the trades. This building will replace programming in 3 of CNM's oldest buildings on our main campus that date back to the 60s and 70s. And the programs that will be offered in this facility include carpentry, electrical trades, HVAC, plumbing, mechatronics, welding, aerospace, as well as cybersecurity. Construction for this facility would begin January of 2023. So with that, I will end my presentation with my ask of you. Please support us on voting on Higher Ed GO Bond 3. Early in-person and absentee voting begins October 11th. Expanded early voting on October 22nd through November 5th, and Election Day is November 8th. So Tuesday, November 8th. Find out more information if you'd like on this bond and the impact on New Mexico at bond34nm.com. Thank you so much for your time this evening.
Any questions? Councilor Woolman.
Mayor, just one quick question. Your trades building, the new building, will you be working with the unions in the area, carpenters, electricians, et cetera?
Absolutely, yes. In fact, in determining which programs we're going to be locating at this facility, we're working with all of the unions because they also have facilities. We want to make sure that we're leveraging what they have in the way of instructional facilities.
Excellent. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Where are these buildings located? Are they on the west side or down by UNM?
And I'm sorry, Mr. Chair and councilors. So the trades buildings that we'll be replacing are on CNM's main campus on Buena Vista on the south side of town. So that will be the Okay,
thank you.
Yeah, Councilor Mira.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you. That was kind of the question I was going to go for, because I was trying to picture, but you said you're going to be replacing some of those trades, so that would make them closer to Smith Brasher and that area down in that.
Do you know where UNM used to have its student family housing?
Yep.
It's Buena Vista between Cole and Lead.
Exactly.
Basically. So we bought that building from them.
That's
and
a lot.
that's where we're putting, it's a 13-acre site, and we're demolishing those. The housing was very old and dilapidated with many environmental issues. So we're demolishing, and that's where the site will be.
That'll help that neighborhood out a lot. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Alsobrook.
Not a question, just a comment. Through the years, I've noted that CNM has been one of the most reliable stewards and investments of public money.
It's definitely an honor to be here. I agree with you. Thank you so much.
Anyone else? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much for your time. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. Okay. So, Mr. Curry, I guess it's your turn. Administrator's report.
Thank you, Mayor. First person, as usual, Tanya, would you give her your report?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor, Council, Administrator Curry. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
My notes over. I'm going to start today a little bit different. Today on my COVID noon meeting, they did want us to get information out that we currently have 4 West Nile cases in humans in New Mexico, and we've had 1 horse death. So please be careful, cover up. If you have standing water, get rid of it. We're hoping to get a freeze soon, but we have had an uptick now in West Nile. Monkeypox, we have 42 in New Mexico. We've been holding steady. We have vaccine available still if people need to be vaccinated. In the US, we have had 27 children below 15 that have gotten monkeypox. I did want to put that out there. New Mexico is doing wastewater sampling again for COVID, and there is kind of an uptick on that right now. It was dropping, but it looks like it may be going up. And I did ask, they are not doing any polio wastewater testing right now in New Mexico. Corrales today did get 3 cases, which we had been holding for about 7 days with no cases. Those are lab PCRs. I do know we've gotten some home test positives, but 3 lab PCR cases today. So that brings us to 21. So we're still doing averaging 0.63 cases per day. In the United States, we are averaging between 450 deaths per day. So right now, if we stay at that, that'll become the 3rd to 4th leading cause of death, if that's where we stay. If we do 400 and 365 days, that's 146,000, which is way over what influenza causes annually. One of the things that they are finding is a primary cause, of course, is not being vaccinated, does lead to death. But the other one is a study showed only 36% of people who are at high risk for being sick, whether vaccinated or not, are getting treatment, are getting Paxlovid or remdesivir or monoclonal antibodies or molnupiravir. And that's concerning. That is really concerning. We need people to know that the treatment's out there. We need physicians to know how to prescribe it. People need to know they have to get it within 5 days of symptoms if they're going to do Paxlovid. If you've got a medical condition that doesn't allow you to do Paxlovid because of medications, there is remdesivir. It's a little harder because it is 3 trips to the infusion clinic, but it's still, both of those are very effective. The R effective rate is still below 1 in New Mexico, and that's the spread rate, but it has been going up. It's about 9.3 right now. BA7 is gaining ground around the world. 25% of all cases in Belgium and parts of Europe are BF7. BF7 is an Omicron offshoot. It was a BA, but because it's now been, they're worried about it outpacing, it has some changes to the spike protein. It has its own name. It's the 3rd most common variant in the United States. It's 2.3% of all cases for the week ending September 24th. That is a 1.6 increase above the week prior. One of the worries about this is Evusheld, which anyone that is severely immunosuppressed on biologics, organ transplants should be talking to their doctors about getting Evusheld. It's a prophylactic PrEP treatment of monoclonal antibodies that you get every 6 months, but they are testing it now. There is a change in the spike protein from BF7 that they worry that Evusheld might not protect against. BA5 is right now 83% of all cases in the United States, with BA 4.6 being 11%. Europe is having its first surge since July. They have got 17% increase of hospitalizations right now, waiting to see some of the data coming out on covariants to see what's leading that, but it's probably going to be BF7. Long COVID, more and more studies are showing that 1 in 3 people who get COVID are going to have long COVID, which is right now 7.5% of all US citizens who have COVID. It's a lot of people who are suffering with tiredness, cardiac problems, brain fog. And here's the interesting fact that they're finding. The age group 50 to 59 is 3 times higher to have long COVID than over 80. And more women are more likely to have COVID, long COVID, than men. And we're still looking to see what the effects will be long-term on children. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Tanya.
Wanted to give a short report on the interior grain progress. I spoke with Doug Finley. Just within the last 10 days, we met with Jason Kasuga. Randy was there with us, and we're moving. They had proposed doing a JPA agreement, but due to various considerations, it's like we'll be moving toward an MOU. Some of the concerns that we're trying to work through is that the property, of course, is owned by the Department of Interior. And we believe that the relationship that Jason demonstrated, and there are several other instances around the United States, that we can go ahead and proceed with trying to eventually take control of that property and not having worries about any problems coming back to the village. But that will all be laid out in the MOU as it's developed. What they propose is that the village will receive a license from them, from the Conservancy District, to operate and do things within the interior drain area that we want to do, that does not require us going to the Conservancy District every time that we decide to do something. They just kind of give us a general umbrella, if you will, and then we stay with that, and then we operate it as we see fit. One of the concerns that Doug Finley had was that he received $150,000, or the committee received $150,000 ICIP project from Senator McKenna. Those have an expiration of 3 years on them, so we're still within there. The first thing they want to do with that money, when we get to a point that the MOU is solid enough, is they want to start having some very serious planning done regarding the interior drain and what will be in it and what it will serve, and whether it be just a recreation area or have something to do with some of the lines around the city as far as moving some of our dirty water. So it's a longer process than I think anybody wants it to be, but we now have a firm understanding, I think, as to how we're going to proceed. I anticipate that we'll be meeting with them again as we've gone through the proposals, some of the issues in there. I suspect we'll be meeting with them again within the next 3 weeks, hopefully. We're exchanging paper at this point. The other thing I wanted to mention was the mayor mentioned earlier that we're moving forward with trying to find a way to perform demolition on the Jones property. We have an asbestos survey that has been done by Kears, which is a sister company of Facility Build. Kears used to be Kears Asbestos, or Kears Asbestos Waste Disposal and Remediation. They became a sister company with Facility Build several years ago. But we have from them a survey that's enclosed in an estimate to tear down, and I think I mentioned the number to you before, to go in and fully remediate and raise the property at $192,000. What we want to do now is, with the work of Angela Gutierrez, working with the state of New Mexico, and then the state of New Mexico working with EPA, we had a phone call with them on Monday, where we'll be having a contractor, we're setting a date, we'll be having a contractor coming out that works for EPA to walk through the property and give an assessment of what needs to be done in the way of another asbestos survey. And then the EPA will provide us with some opportunity for some possible funding to move forward under the Brownsfield program, which is a big program within the EPA as far as restoring property, cleaning up property and restoring it so it's economically viable for the particular community it's located in. So we're excited about that. We're approaching it from a couple of different areas. And as the mayor said earlier, we're confident that once the building is raised, it will be a sign of progress as far as moving forward, as far as raising funds for it. So we're excited about the fact that the EPA is going to join in and help us out, because if they do join in, that's also a good signal to other people that might want to participate financially in the raising of the. We're unsure as to the amount of money that they may have available for us, because some of the criteria says, what they told me was that we will provide funding or grant funding possibilities for removal of the asbestos, but they don't encompass that removal of the asbestos in complete raising of the building. So we're seeking clarification on that. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was Meadowlark. It's at the end of September now, and we have all but 3 essentially easements that we work with. What we have to do now is that we anticipate sometime in the middle to late October that we will, Chavis and I and Steve Groman will go out and meet with individual residents, the other 3 residents, and discuss, the particular easement on their property, any particular costs that are involved, and how the village will go about making sure that those costs are borne by the village.
Yes, Melanie. No.
I was wondering, when you were talking to Jason Kasuga from the MRGCD, did you talk at all about the siphon and P&M's progress as far as getting electricity down there?
You want to take that?
Well, you had that conversation.
So, were you asleep? No, I'm just kidding. So Jason said that, well, first of all, he has requested some money from the Water Trust Board. And we sent a letter in, you saw the letter, I believe, last council meeting. He's going to ask for $7.5 to $8 million. So that's to replace the siphon, but that'll probably be at least 2024. The power, they're still dragging their feet. I think it was Brenda McKenna said she's trying to, maybe it's also Melanie Stansbury. I think it was Brenda McKenna, though. They said that she is trying to work with P&M to try to get that moved forward, but it's very slow. And we don't have a time frame, or at least Jason didn't have a time frame when that would happen. But that's the ultimate goal, because long term, as Anthony Martinez has pointed out, having that power back there helps us too in dealing with firefighting down in the Bosque. So we are really focused on them getting some 3-phase power down there. I mean, it's important, but no, we don't have a time or a date yet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we good? All right, well, let's move on. Any department reports? Okay. This brings us to Councilors Forum. Councilors, who would like to speak up first? Councilor Hasselbrook.
I know there's no one here, but Kiwanis did a great job this past weekend, and kudos to them. And oh, there, yes. And there was a pretty good attendance both times. Everybody seemed to be having a great time. We didn't have any injuries or anything, any incidents on the tractors, and all in all, I think it was a good coming out after a couple of years hiatus.
I think that's important to know. After a couple of years of not doing it, they did pretty good. Yeah.
I understand Peanut is very happy as well.
I guess so. Yeah.
Side by side.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the police chief wanted somebody else to win, though. Anyway, okay, anybody else? So we move on to Corrales Forum. Who do you have?
First up, we have Story White.
Could you please state your name, where you live?
I'm Story White. Story White, I live on Sagebrush. Mr. Mayor and councilors. So I'm here on behalf of CEAC, the Corrales Equestrian Commission, and we want to know, or we're interested in finding out where we are on those crosswalks. The crosswalks seem to me, after sitting here listening to all the plans that are possibly going forward in our village, that it's apparent to me that we're really going to probably need these crosswalks on the north and south ends for horses and pedestrians and bicycles and what have you. So we'd like to know, or we're interested in that. My second thing is about the Christmas de los Caballos parade. We would like to have that on November 13th at 11 a.m. I believe that's a Sunday.
November 13th at 11 a.m.?
Yes, sir. And that's all they have for me to say, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Mr. Kurt Fleur. You can state your name and address for the record.
Kurt Fleur, 560 Andrews Lane, and let me play a couple of recordings from you from when we reached out to myself.
I don't know why you would, because you're at final plat.
I know we're at final plat, and we're hoping to move forward.
So if you argue about the preliminary plat and take it back a step, preliminary plat got approved last time. We're at final plat. And so if something is deemed to be not correct here, and it wasn't Tom Patrick's fault, and it's just some thing, then we can bring it
Right here,
again.
your ordinance gives the opportunity to fix it before it's charged.
Okay, that was January 8th, 2019.
Still doing it.
Okay, my next recording.
Plat with a 20-foot road easement. We won that, correct?
No.
What do you mean, no? Was it not approved? Was it not?
There were two conditions. One of them was the correct width, and the other one was the engineering, as I recall.
No, there was two.
Okay, that was February 2021. There was a condition. It's in her email, Tom Patrick, right here. One of the conditions, the village attorney, the village worked with the MRGCD to get the weight bearing capacity that Hobart worked out. Right here, she's saying, just heard her say.
It's when we won the preliminary plat. It was for you to work with the MRGCD, you to work with them.
Okay, there was a condition for her to work with the MRGCD. In her written minutes, that is not there. To work with the MRGCD, if it was a condition, it's not listed in her written minutes. Okay. Right there, she mentions private property. Okay, we are private property. The village has no rights to our property. Now we're talking net versus gross.
That's why we submitted within 40 days.
I understand, but there's no way we could do the things that the commission asked us to do. So we have 60 days and
Yeah, 60 days.
Our plat was turned in on December 7th. They have 60 days from December 7th to approve the final plat, or to get a hearing to approve the final plat. That's part of the ordinance 1887. They refused. There was only one condition. The condition was not on us to get it done. They passed their time limit. 1887 says you got 60 days. If it isn't approved in 60 days, it should be approved on demand. We demanded it to be approved. They passed their time limit. Seems like the village they don't have to follow their own ordinances. They don't have to follow their own ordinance or time limits.
Thank you, Mr.
4
Flora.
or
That's your
5
time.
dwellings.
That's your
4 or
time,
5
Mr. Flora.
1 second.
Your time's up, sir.
Thank you.
It doesn't say time, it says 4. She admits to it.
Okay,
One
thank you.
or the other.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Flora.
you. Next up is Mr. Patrick Marquez. And sir, if you could also,
I'm not even sitting here fucking call all day.
Hey, there's a kid in here.
Thank you.
Mr. Marquez, if you could please state your name and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening, I'm Patrick Marquez. I live at 1470 Hollywood Boulevard, Corrales, New Mexico, 87048. And if I may approach the councilors, good evening, Mr. Mayor and councilors. I do have a little packet of 10 pages or 10 pictures in reference to my property. And it was something that I produced really quickly so you guys can review it in reference so we could bring this up as a future agenda. I am revisiting and respectfully requesting for my property to be put on an agenda reference to Article 5, Terrains and Stormwater Management, dated on November 3rd, 2021 by Planning and Zoning Department. I suffer extreme flooding from the west, Rio Rancho, Thompson fence line, also from the north, that is in Corrales, developed and owned by SCAPCA. I also went to SCAPCA to respectfully request record history of my involvement for the last 15 years. I will be revisiting SCAPCA this Thursday, 9/29. I recently, last Friday on 9/23, protested my property taxes for their assessments again. Previous years, 2008, 2014, 2015, 2019, and now 2022. I have contacted Mr. Woolman, and I have been speaking with Anthony T. Pacheco Jr., MPA, Office of Congressman Teresa Lieber Fernandez. In reference to possible FEMA, on 9/22, I followed up with a possible resolution to the problem and emailed him with a response. And if I can finally read that message to him, and I got these 10 pages that the assessors uses by Google Maps in reference to the properties. And the first 7 pages, the 8th page indicates my driveway, the 9th page indicates 74 piles of dirt that I bought from the ditch people when they were cleaning out the ditches back in the years. And then the last page will show how I fixed my lands and it's totally destroyed again. I have no fire protection. I can't get a rescue squad up there. Our property lines are totally scarred. My land's totally disappeared. So I can approach these 10 pages, and I did make 10 copies by lucky chance. And I do have this message of when I emailed to Mr. Pacheco, and this is what it states. Good evening, Mr. Pacheco. A follow-up on our conversation earlier today in reference to a possible resolution of my scar lands on 1470 Hollywood Boulevard, Corrales, New Mexico, 8748. As noted on the photos sent by Mr. Ortiz that I provided to the Sandoval County Assessor's Office for protest on my 2022 property taxes, as the photos speak loudly where the floods are occurring by 3 major entities. To the west is Rio Rancho, New Mexico. Number 2 to the north is Corrales, New Mexico. Both entities have been developed to prevent flooding by SCAFCA. There is lengthy story and speaks loudly since 2006 till present of 2022. As I observed,
that's your time.
I just got one more paragraph. As I observed for very many years off of Highway 528 and Rio Rancho and Corrales Road, constant preservation is done by SCAFCA in this location of yearly flooding during monsoon seasons. It is very possible and logistically designed for a dump truck to travel
Thank you,
along the
Mr.
bike path.
Marquez. You can leave the paperwork at the village clerk's desk.
Okay, and I'll get all counselors who want to get one?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, and we have one more person on the list. I can't read the last name. I think it says Kurt Scribe. Is there anybody else here that? Okay, then I think that is it.
I got it.
I have one question. How many signatures does it take on a petition to take action?
So the next is the consent agenda. Has everybody had a chance to review the consent agenda? Now, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Does anybody want to pull anything off the consent agenda before we have a vote? Okay, how do you vote? Councilor Miera?
Yes, sir.
How do you vote, Councilor Woolman?
Aye.
Councilor Knight?
Aye.
Councilor Alsobrook?
Aye.
Councilor Burkett?
Aye.
Councilor Murray?
Aye.
Okay, under new business. Consideration action and approval of resolution 22-56, COVID memorial resolution. Oh,
Mayor.
that's right. You wanted to speak. I'm sorry. Bill,
kind of
Councilor Woolman.
Remarks. I was approached by Eleanor Bravo, a longtime resident of Corrales and a resident of my district. She indicated that the State Land Commissioner will set aside state land at Mesa del Sol to commemorate what Corrales, the nation, and the world experienced in the recent COVID pandemic. It is one way to inform future generations of what we've all lived through. So I would ask, after Ms. Bravo's speak, that the council approve resolution 2256 in support of this permanent memorial. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Eleanor Bravo. I'm at 178 Cottonwood Lane on the north end. I want to thank Councilor Waldman and Councilor Miera for introducing this resolution. I'm here on behalf of a group called Marked by COVID. We're the largest survivor group in the country of people who have lost loved ones to COVID and who have been impacted by the COVID-19 virus. I lost my only sister to COVID almost 2 years ago. She was at home with a knee replacement, so I thought she wouldn't get it. But she fell. She was sent back to the hospital. She was then sent to rehab, and she was infected in rehab by a staff member who was not wearing a mask. She was then rehospitalized, she was intubated, and she lived for 5 days after that. She died alone. We never got to see her. We have still not yet had a funeral or memorial service. So our grief is unique. We never got to say goodbye. So I've chosen to channel my grief and my energy towards never letting this happen again. And so we're working on a national basis and a statewide and local levels. And as Councilor Goldman said, we have been given 1 acre of land, public trust land in Bernalillo County in Albuquerque to build a memorial. We've been working on this for almost 2 years. We have already procured some funding, and we will continue to get capital outlay funding at the next legislative session. So the memorial is based on some extensive research. It is typically New Mexican, and our landscape architect, who is working pro bono, has looked at all the memorials throughout the state, and the theme of the memorial is a pilgrimage. And I'm not going to describe the memorial. I'm going to let my colleague do that in just a minute. But I would like you to know that tonight, if you vote for this memorial, we'll be the first in the state. In the next couple of months, we will have the city of Albuquerque. We will have the county commission in Bernalillo County also passing a memorial, the Sandoval County Commission, and we will have the city of Las Cruces and the city of Santa Fe joining Corrales, and we will continue on. So the location of the memorial is District 69, which the House District 69, and we have pledged that we will work with any other community in the state if they want also a scaled down memorial for say Gallup, Las Cruces, the western part of the state, and the Native American have lost so many. So we have a steering committee. We meet every other week. I'm the chair of the steering committee. The steering committee is made up of citizens. We're building out the steering committee so it'll reflect all the population of New Mexico. And we're working with Bernalillo County Parks and Rec, and they have been really fantastic. So we expect it's going to be $2 to $2.5 million. We expect that we can break ground late in 2023. And we will also have an opportunity for corporate donations and personal donations. People can buy a brick and it can have their loved one's name put on the brick. Corporations can donate, and we will give them something in return. We have a lot of in-kind donations, and on the steering committee, we are adding Native American representation, African American. We have several hospitals represented on our committee. Anyone who would like to join our committee, we're still meeting virtually. At some point, we feel extremely vulnerable. I had COVID myself in July. It stops. I did take Paxlovid, and I'm an older person, and it's hard. And I'm here in the village. I'm available to talk with any of you, but I'd like to introduce my colleague, Jeanette Nunez Del Prado, and she would like to describe, it's an extremely unique design, and it will be a smaller version of the National Memorial, which will be in Washington, D.C., and will also be uniquely in each state, but it is an interactive, interactive technology. So I'd like Jeanette, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for hearing from me. My name is Jeanette Nunez Del Prado. I'm the New Mexico Marked by COVID Hub leader. I work with Eleanor Bravo, and I'm here with my 5-year-old daughter, Liliana, who, like her mother, believes in the power of government to heal. I'm here because I lost my father to COVID-19 last May, just 2 weeks before he was going to be able to access the life-saving vaccine. And it has been the most devastating thing that's ever happened to me and my family. And I just, want to let you guys know about the work that we're doing and describe the memorial. So as you all know, the COVID-19 pandemic has become the deadliest disease event in US history. As of today, we have lost over 8,560 New Mexicans. And for every COVID loss, there are 9 close bereaved family members left behind. And as we were reminded tonight, our losses are ongoing. The New Mexico COVID-19 Memorial will support the needs of the COVID bereaved, but also provide a space for everyone, because we have all been harmed by COVID and we have all lost something. It will be a place to go. So the location of the memorial is beautiful and grounding, bordered by the Rio Grande Valley, mountainous terrain in our bosque. It's expressive of our New Mexican identity. The memorial will offer visitors a pilgrimage experience and an opportunity to travel through personal and collective experiences of grief. The pilgrimage walk is filtered by papel picado walls with nichos, or small shelves for offerings or ofrendas brought by mourners, and colorful gardens in key areas. At the end of the pilgrimage, visitors will see the stone plinth, which will be an analog as well as digital experience. So the stone plinth, the focal point includes an augmented reality marker, so visitors can use their mobile devices to experience the AR, augmented reality view of the memorial, which includes a vortex of photos of the dead spiraling upwards. Using smartphones or tablets to access the digital memory archives really echoes the unique pandemic phenomenon of millions of virtual goodbyes. For those grieving COVID-19 loss, our associations with smartphones and tablets have been forever changed by the traumatic experience of saying goodbye to our loved ones via our cell phone. This memorial will help us to reclaim our devices as objects of healing and community building. And for the rest of those that didn't lose someone to COVID, often our loved ones, they're just statistics. So this will give us a shared imagery, which is not something that we have. There's no visual imagery or reminders of everything we lost in COVID. So our memorial will provide that to visitors. It aims to create this, just this acknowledgement and recognition that our pain is real and our loved ones mattered, and this acknowledgement is essential to our healing. So please stand in solidarity with the COVID bereaved and vote yes on this resolution. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I would like to introduce my colleague, Olivia, as well, who would like to share with you her story.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I am a mother of a person that died of COVID. My 45-year-old daughter died on January 10th, 2022 of COVID. She left behind 2 children that I am now responsible for. I cannot explain the pain that my family has gone through during this time. I support this organization tremendously because they have helped me in healing. And with this memorial, it would also help my children, my grandchildren to heal. They can go to the gravesite and see her stone, but going to a memorial, I think, would help them so much in healing from everything that has gone through. As I mentioned earlier, there are so many New Mexicans that have died. I believe it's 9,000. Sometime back it said there were 9,000 children that lost a parent or a caregiver to COVID in New Mexico. That number is tremendous. So I think we owe our New Mexicans something that they can look forward to. At least they can visit and maybe hopefully get some healing out of that. My daughter died alone in the hospital at UNMH, and her children and myself were not able to say goodbye to her. So I ask that you please support this memorial, and Hopefully, none of you have experienced this. And if you have, I would suggest that you contact the COVID Foundation. That's how I got a hold of them and became involved in this. So thank you for taking the time, and please support the COVID organization and helping us heal. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think they had one more member, Amy, that wanted to say a few things.
Maybe I don't need to pick this up. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and the Corrales Village Council members. My name is Amy LaGrange, and I call for the passage of Resolution 2256 in support of COVID-19 victims and survivors. Thank you. My COVID story, while my own, is too similar to too many other New Mexicans. In February 2022, my dad died of COVID-19. I had not seen him in over 2 years. He lived in Indiana, where I grew up. I've been here for 20 years. My parents raised 7 children. They welcomed 17 grandchildren and 4 great-grandchildren before his death. He missed the birth of his 5th great-grandchild by 30 days. When my mom said that Dad had a horrible cough, my stomach dropped. I had been expecting this for a long time. They'd been going to restaurants and basketball games and church since August of 2020, when things had opened back up in Indiana. They had just hosted 2021 Thanksgiving and Christmas for the rest of my family. For 2 years from a distance, I entreated. My words inviting caution, masking, and boosting slipped in, attempting not to sound too pushy. As a caretaker of my 85-year-old mother-in-law with Alzheimer's, I had decided not to go to Indiana for the holidays. When both my parents tested positive for COVID-19 in early January 2022, I tried not to question that decision. Your father has a horrible cough, still rings in my ears. Every passing helicopter makes me shudder. 6.5 million deaths worldwide, over 1 million deaths in the US, and more than 8,560 New Mexicans. Many of these deaths were experienced alone, suffering and dying in hospitals alone, without family and friends, alone. The word memorial comes from memorare in Latin, to recount or call to mind. A memorial helps people remember. It offers a place for grief. It shows the magnitude of our loss as an individual, as a family, as a community. We build this memorial to recount our loved ones lost to COVID-19 and call to mind those left behind, all of us, where I can join others remembering our loved ones like my father and keep the lessons of their loss alive for our children. Thank you for your time and support.
Thank you. Okay. Need a motion to approve the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 22-56. How do you vote, Councilor Murray?
Gladly, yes.
Councilor Burkett?
Aye.
Councilor Alsobrook?
Yes.
Councilor Knight?
Aye.
Councilor Waldman?
Aye.
And Councilor Miera?
Yes, sir.
Even though they don't ask me, I vote yes too. Okay, let's move on to discussion and approval of contract for RFP 22-01 Public Works Roads and Public Utilities between the Village of Corrales and Albuquerque Asphalt. We only had one RFP, right? Yeah, we only had one person who bid, and that was Albuquerque Asphalt. So, does anybody want to ask a question?
Well, I was going to ask, how many other asphalt companies were submitted? I mean, did we send out an RFP?
Yeah.
Then only Albuquerque Asphalt responded, huh?
Yeah.
That's pretty sad.
Pretty sad. Fortunately,
I mean,
fortunately, they do a good job.
That I understand that, and that's my comment. Is it's a good thing we have a good working relationship with them, but I was just a little bit disturbed that we didn't have more submittals from, but I guess that's life.
You think Michael's still here?
He is.
I'm here.
Here.
Michael, did you want to make a comment?
Well, this RFP, this is something we should have been doing all along anyway. What we've been doing is piggybacking off of other communities. So like Las Lunas is pretty much the one we've been piggybacking off of their contract. But this year they put a clause in there that no other entities can use theirs, which I really don't understand why, but this is something that we should have on board anyway, the whole time.
Mayor, one more question. Is there a cost involved with this contract? I mean, is there any monies that we are allocating for this?
Michael?
No, this is on call. So as we go forward, as we come up with a project, we will still get a quote from them and we would still have to do the purchase request, get a purchase order. So there's no monies involved yet.
Okay. Thank you.
So how do you vote, Councilor Miera?
Move adoption.
Say again?
Move adoption.
No. You're gonna have to help me. Councilor Waldman.
Aye.
Councilor McKnight.
Aye.
Councilor Alsabrook.
Aye.
Councilor Burkett.
Aye.
Councilor Murray.
Aye.
Okay. So RFP 2022-01 is approved. Now, we would like to have a motion to go into closed executive session pursuant to the provision of New Mexico Open Meetings Act adopted by the Village Council pursuant to NMSA 1978, Section 10-15-1, H8. We will convene an executive session for the discussion of purpose acquisition or disposal of real property or water rights by the public body. Do I have that motion?
Mayor, I move that we move into closed executive session.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second.
Second.
How do you vote? Councilor Murray?
Aye.
Councilor Burkett?
Aye.
Councilor Alsabrook?
Aye.
Councilor
Aye.
Knight? Councilor Woolman?
Aye.
Councilor Miera?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we are in executive session. Sorry, we have to clear you guys out.
And the recording will be paused.
At the Roundhouse. This is at 2 AM at the Roundhouse. These go crazy.
Right awake, get ready to go. Next on the
Okay, Councilor Miera, did you have something to say?
agenda. Move we go back into session.
Is there a second?
Second.
How do you vote, Councilor Murray?
Aye.
Councilor Burkett?
Aye.
Councilor Alsabrook?
Aye.
Councilor Knight?
Aye.
Councilor Woolman?
Aye.
Councilor Miera?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I want to certify that we went into closed session to discuss possible land purchase. No decisions were made, no votes were taken. Anything I'm forgetting? And that actually, guys and gals, completes the agenda. Oh, future agenda items. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm jumping to it. Does anybody have anything they want to talk about? Yes, Stuart?
Yeah, can we get an update on the crosswalks?
Yes, that's a good thought. Update on crosswalks. Okay, Zach?
None for me.
John? Melanie? Melanie? Mel?
The commercial kitchen.
Okay. I was actually thought we would talk about that when we have our little get together, maybe give you more. There's like 3 or 4 things that really like to talk about. The Animal Services Center, the commercial kitchen, perhaps the fire suppression line, perhaps the sewer line, and sort of give you an update. That's what we were talking about, right?
We've probably got between 10 and 15 things that we're working on.
There's about another 6 or 8, yeah. But we wanted to focus on some that are kind of big deals that everybody's interested in.
Well, I know that they wanted to do some kind of a presentation. Bonnie wanted to, and John Young. I don't know if you wanted, they wanted to do a presentation sometime this fall. I don't know if you talked to them about that.
Yes. And at that time, so more information on that. So the Corrales Main Street and Art Gallery and who else want to take over the Darling Tribes building. And there is a kitchen in the Darling Tribes. It is pretty much ready to could be a commercial kitchen. So it would be a lease, / purchase, which I don't think either one of us really want to do. Correct me if I'm doing this wrong. We don't want to do that. We don't want to get more stuff.
Right.
Certainly no more buildings. It is a really nice kitchen and it would work. but we would have to take out a lease. And then as I reminded all the people who were involved, the gallery and art people, one of the big issues, we stood right here and they raised all kinds of a ruckus about having a commercial kitchen in the proposed Performing Arts Center. I said, I don't want to get into that again. If you guys come up with a plan, and so the ball is in Corrales Main Street because they want to have a visitor center. And several of them want to do arts and gallery and education and stuff like that. I said, you come up with a plan and tell us about it. We'll look at it. But right now, my focus is on the community center, which is underutilized.
Right.
And we still have, that's one of the things I want to talk to Brian Kilcup about. How big a deal would it be to remodel it and make it a commercial kitchen based on what John Young has told me would be best to have in the facility.
Right.
And he has a lot of the equipment apparently available from previous things he's done.
Right.
So it might not be as expensive as say,
when
a brand new building.
When I was at that meeting with them, I mean, the way they were talking about it, there was the guy from, is it El Patio, or that was there, who runs their kitchen, and another gentleman who is from the state, and he was talking about, they really had plans and futuristic look to that building. The only thing really they needed to do besides the main big thing was to get a drain in there somehow. But
In the floor.
And the floor
drain, yeah.
But, like you said, that building is underutilized.
We own the building.
And you own the building,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, I feel really bad. Here I told you guys when we started the year, we got to be careful how we spend all this money. And here I am, we're talking about spending money right and left. So I apologize. But
that's what we're here for. I mean,
well, but it's I think they're good purchases, except boy, they're sure big. We're talking about 800-something thousand for one and almost 500,000 for the other one. That's a big chunk of money. Anyway, I think it was a very difficult pill to swallow. When your wife's right.
Hey, I resent that. We're always
But
right.
I had to admit to her, I said, that makes perfectly good sense, especially when she brought up the land that was adjacent to the soccer field that George Pisolo tried to sell the village. And thought, man. Okay.
Mayor, one of my other points.
Yes, sir.
I should have brought this up at Councilors Forum, but I emailed you the tip process, which starts the first month, and it goes to the end of December. So if there are transportation infrastructure plans that we can think of that we could apply to the village, this is the time to do it, because it's the only open period they're going to consider.
Gotcha. Do you have something?
Parking.
Okay.
Right.
So
Bill,
what was
there you
the date on that other,
When do you want to have work session?
the 12th?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, October the 12th at 3
October the
p.m. is
12th.
what we were
Okay.
going for.
Is it 3 o'clock?
So the regular meeting is on October, that can't be right.
Yeah,
This-
October 11th would
Yep.
be the, wait,
I thought it was in between.
yeah, I thought it was in between too.
We wanted to put it in between, I thought. So we weren't here two nights in a row, or 2 days in a row.
The 18th is in between.
That would be the 18th.
So the,
Yep. That would have to be the 18th then, 3 o'clock.
Would you rather do the 18th? Does it make
I
any
would.
difference?
Hang on.
You would?
I would.
I would too, but I'll,
18th at what time?
What time?
you gonna change it to the 18th?
You can, but what time? Did you
Well,
want to do it?
3 o'clock in the afternoon is fine. Is it okay with you people?
It is better for me.
18th. That's a Tuesday, right? No.
We're gonna go over our projects.
Oh, God.
No, that's probably
Not
better.
all of them, but like pick 4 or 5, something like that. Spend about an
Better
hour.
for me.
Plan for about an hour, so we don't get here, stay
It's
here too
probably
long.
better too, because court does stuff on Wednesday afternoons. So they don't necessarily use the chambers, but the court has Zoom meetings in their office on Wednesday afternoons. So probably better if we do it on
Do
Tuesday.
it on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so we'll
that's
do
what-
it
that's what I
the
was
18th.
Yeah.
Okay. And that'll be basically a work study. We'll call it that. Okay. That does our agenda. Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you, sir.
Dinner time.
You guys have a good evening. Thank you.